One of the greatest tasks of my life, wrote Micheaux, has been to teach that the colored man can be anything. The movie Hallelujah, made in 1929, was a smash hit. But the film reinforced the same old stereotypes.
Especially coming out of Hollywood, there were films that featured black performers in roles which were really less than complimentary.
Can you keep a secret without running all over the neighborhood and telling it? That is my fear now. I can't even walk all over the neighborhood.
Stephen Fetchit was a performer of proven ability, but when he got into the Hollywood thing, he had apparently a talent for the shuffling, teeth-baring, and eye-rolling stereotype that Hollywood always associated with the Negro. He was an instant hit with them. They put him in every film with that.
Where were you on the night of the murder?
Oh, I was off that night. That was my night ball, and I was juicing in the saloon.
To typecast black actors.
Where'd you get that gold brooch?
You mean this scrumptious piece of jewelry?
Yeah, where'd you get it?
Just give it to me.
Who gave it to you?
Ask me no questions and I'll tell you no lies.
Two key ingredients in these films were singing and dancing.
Several things happen to race movies with the development of sound in the Hollywood sector and with the development of well-mounted musicals in Hollywood. One, the race movies try to duplicate the song and dance, the entertainment values of those films with a minimum of money.
Sing it. Hey, oh, sing it. Yeah, swing it on out for me, I say. Swing it on out, yeah.
We began to go backward, and so the race movies no longer are doing their job.
White producers began to dominate the race movie market. Harry M. Popkin produced the movie The Duke is Tops, in which Lena Horne made her movie debut in a supporting role.
I know you remember all I told you. We'll see our dreams through. You remember.
Once Hollywood noticed her, the movie was re-released as The Bronze Venus, and Lena Horne got top billing. The difference between race movies and all-black cast Hollywood films began to fade. But popular vocalist Herb Jeffries was one of those who recognized that there was still a need for race movies.
There's only one shot left.
Well, I was with Earl Hines' band as a vocalist with his band.
Flamingo.
We were traveling on the road. It was in Cincinnati, Ohio. It was an early evening, about 5 o'clock, and there were a bunch of children running up the alleyway. Group of little white children and one little black child running along behind, and he was crying. They went through the fence, and so we called him over and says, hey, what's the matter? Those guys hit you? And he said, no, they're my friends. He said, your friends? What are you crying about? He said, well, we're playing cowboy, and I want to be Tom Mix, and they won't let me be Tom Mix because Tom Mix ain't black. And boy, the guys in the band were really set back by that, and we talked about it and said, gee, you know, little black children cannot relate in a cowboy picture. Who can they be, you see? And yet there were many great black cowboys, great heroes in our history. So I came back to Hollywood, decided that I was going to come out here and somehow instigate a black cowboy picture that could play in thousands and thousands of segregated black theaters throughout the South. I said, I gotta make that cowboy picture somehow.
Jeffries went on to become the first black singing cowboy.
Now I am confessing, got that gambling craze. Will I learn my lesson? Oh, I'll be broke for 30 days. I can't trust at the store.
Jeffries' films were widely distributed, but by the late 30s, Hollywood had begun to siphon off the race movie audience as they controlled more and more theaters.
After we made all these pictures, we had no place to show them. We went around these different places trying to show all these pictures. We had no place to show them.
Forced to adapt to a shrinking market, Oscar Micheaux began making gangster films and mystery thrillers like Murder in Harlem. He even came from behind the camera to play a bit part as a detective.
That tall Negro did this. He will try to lay it on the knife.
Oscar Micheaux, he did everything fast, quickly, because his money was limited. He didn't have any money. But everybody just went along with him because they wanted to be in the pictures, you know, so they just went along with it.
How in the world did we ever do it? But we were able to shoot from early in the morning, daybreak, and sometimes until 1 o'clock at night we were still filming. And sometimes I slept on a set. You know, I'd crawl up on a army bunk that they'd unfold and put there, and then I'd just lay down with all my clothes on, all the cowboy clothes on, and except my hat. And that's one of the few times I took it off. And wake up in the morning, and the guys wake up and say, okay, we're going to get out there and do a chase shot, and we'd go do it.
While black westerns portrayed a romantic view of life, Micheaux's films continued to scold, presenting a vision that was both critical and disturbing.
Why is it that so many, most all of our men, when they go into business, got to be a crap game, a numbers bank, or a policy shop? Why can't they go into some kind of legitimate business like white people?
They could, but they've made no study of economics. Their idea of success is to seek the line of least resistance. Negro hates to think. He's a stranger to planning.
I guess you're right.
I guess I think too much, and plan too much also. But after viewing the failure of our group, for we are failures, it seems that we should go right back to the beginning and start all over again. That's what I decided to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to buy a farm and start at the beginning.
With God's Stepchildren, it became clear that Micheaux was out of touch with a new generation of moviegoers. Micheaux was also accused of ridiculing dark-skinned Negroes.
Oh, Mama, look. Who is that, Miss Jimmy? Oh, what makes him so funny looking?
That's Clyde Wade, Jimmy's friend, who we want you to meet.
You mean that? That's the man you've been talking about? And he wants you to like that? That person? Oh, Mama, I don't want anybody who looks like that. Oh,
In
please,
some
hide
cities,
somewhere.
black protesters even forced him to withdraw the film.
I hear you.
By the 40s, it was clear the type of race movies Oscar Micheaux was famous for no longer had a future. Oscar Micheaux tried to make a comeback. After the war, he came out of retirement to make The Betrayal. In this film, he resurrected the same story of an interracial romance saved by one drop of black blood. New York critics panned the film. On Broadway, the movie closed within days. But at local theaters, black audiences stood in line to see it. In 1951, while on the road trying to promote his movies, Oscar Micheaux died. In a career that spanned 30 years, Oscar Micheaux produced more than 40 motion pictures. By the early 50s, race movies had all but disappeared.
And then we began to find that integration became quite prevalent. The black theaters were no longer needed because we integrated and people were going any theater they wanted to go to. So that was the end of the black motion picture business.
Today, only a few fragments of these films survive. Reminders of a time when movie makers struggled to fill the hunger black Americans had to see themselves portrayed with dignity, affection, and pride.
The existence of a body of films from that period is proof that we were there. That certain kinds of assaults, such as Birth of a Nation, did not go unanswered. That the explanation industry was challenged, and that there was a movement in those days to try to do justice. He was an exemplary businessman. He continued to work his trade in a capital-intensive enterprise with very little money, but with a wealth of skills, his ability to collar people, his ability to talk, his ability to make those films, to carry them around, to promote them, to exhibit them. He becomes a model for the independent black cinema movement that comes out of his shadow.
As Micheaux used to say, I'm helping the Negro, he would say. In other words, a lot of these people are trying to keep us down, but I'm helping elevate our people. And I'm sure he seriously tried to do that because he found it profitable to do so. After all, our people weren't going to black theaters to see a black man bring us down further.
One of the greatest tasks of my life, wrote Micheaux, has been to teach that the colored man can be anything